Bricks and Minifigs is your one-stop shop for all things LEGO. Hit the link below to find a store near you. Hey everyone, Joshua Hanlon here at BrickSlopes in Salt Lake City, and today we're taking a look at this incredible collaborative effort by Idaho LUG with their massive avatar layout here. So I've got one of the members who's going to introduce themselves and give us an overview of the project, and then we'll take a look at all the cool details here.
Great. Well, hi, I'm Greg Fastabend, president of Idaho LUG, and this was just an amazing opportunity project provided to us through the LEGO group. It showed up on the land as an opportunity to build something expressing the avatar world through LEGO. We thought it would be a great thing to participate in, so we started with a small napkin sketch, just a basic pitch about building a small minifig scale diorama, including the Tree of Souls, the mountain, things we knew about from the first movie, because at the time, Way of Water hadn't come out yet. There was a little bit of a teaser trailer that gave us just a tiny snippet of what possibly could be in movie 2. So we started with a sketch and this idea that we'd do a minifig scale diorama and some community outreach projects that would bring other people in to help us build it. We went through several reviews and rounds of interviews with LEGO, and eventually our LUG was selected out of the other LUGs that applied to build this avatar. After that point, we met with Lightstorm and Disney. Had to sign NDAs because they were giving us a little bit of information about the movie before it had come out. And we started working on designs and ideas. And after meeting with one of the Lightstorm reps, he was saying, hey, you guys should put some water in this build, and how about a little more water, and how about you just double the size of what you've got planned? So effectively, we went from this small corner of the build to the full-size build that you see today. It was an incredible project. We spent months doing our initial designs, prototyping, studio files, everything we needed to do to convert our ideas into a parts list, and we kept wondering what our actual budget was and how big can this be, and we didn't get pushback on it. It was just, we want you to design, we want you to be creative, show the amazing color and fauna and flora of Pandora, and then we'll decide what's going to work. So we kept putting everything together, getting ideas from our members. We had lots of members submit things in studio that we then evaluated or modified, put them all together. We had to come up with a rock palette to do the rock work in the mountains, and floral palette of parts we would use to create the landscaping, the terrain, the contouring, and of course the superstructure that's underneath this is, everything that you see is LEGO, and then also the diorama, the mural here on the back. We put all this together into this massive spreadsheet, and when we got to that point, we looked at the parts list, and it was 1.2 million pieces. And we were not confident that they were going to approve something that large. But we submitted it, and then we waited. And a little bit later, they approved it and told us the bricks would be on the way. And after a few months of waiting, we were notified that the shipment was in town and it was time to get ready to start building. So after shipping us this group of this huge pile of bricks, and it was 8 pallets of brick and multiple days of us sorting and organizing to get this in a place that we could start building, we had 90 days to finish the build. That was part of the agreement with the project. They wanted us to do a bunch of photography of the build, of the design and in progress. And then also, when it was finished, we had to do everything that we could get on up-close shots, wide shots. We did drone footage over the top. But that all had to be done on April 30th. So we had exactly 90 days from the day we opened the brick to being done. And that led to some very, very late nights and overnights. And building something this large, you need a huge space to work in, and we did not have that. So we got a lot of support from Bricks and Minifigs in Boise. They allowed us to come in after hours and also dedicated a section of their store to our storage. We'd take over the party room for a few nights, and then the parties were scheduled, so we had to put everything away, pack everything back in the corner, cover it all up so people didn't see our progress, and they'd have the party, and then the next night we'd bust it all back out again and start building again. So 3 months of late nights and huge effort over weekends from all of our team. And of course, we gathered in anybody that could help us, friends, families, neighbors. My late 70s parents came in and they got right into it, helped with rock work, helped organizing, sorting. I think our youngest builder was 4. Anybody that could come help, we did it. We did outreach to elementary schools where we had bricks that we took out and we had them help us build the hair coral and some of the undersea wildlife. We had outreach to some of our local libraries that had Lego clubs, and we took a pallet of bricks and gave it to the kids and said, hey, we want you to create beautiful alien plants that would fit in the Pandora world. And they did. And some of the creations that these kids did were just beautiful. And we definitely included them in the build, mixed right in with all the other things that we designed. And it just turned out incredible. It was a ton of work, over 3,000 hours that we have documented. A lot of time that people spent at home doing design work and revisions that they didn't report back to me. But we, as much as we could keep track, over 3,000 hours, over 100 different builders helped out, not including hundreds and hundreds of school kids that helped with the project. And eventually we got to that point where it was finished and we got to do our final big picture and start photography. Then we spent hours and hours doing photography to turn that all in. But we're very happy with the result. One of the best parts of this is being able to take it to a show like this and have us stand around and listen as people come around from the back of the mural, where they're from one side it has the Avatar logo and our credit list for everybody who worked on the project. But hearing them come around that corner and just seeing their mouths drop and just going, whoa, and then staring, because there's so much detail that our builders put into this, so many little vignettes and stories and little scenes that are all blended into this build. It really just was an incredible project for us.
Such an amazing collaborative effort. Thank you so much for that overview and the great story of kind of how this came together here. I'm so glad you all were able to bring it out to BrickSlopes and put this on display for the public. We can launch on in with more of the particular sections here. So I think your section is over on the left, correct?
Well, all of the core builders that did, our team leads and everything, we pretty much had our hands in every little aspect of the project. From the structure to the mural. But we each kind of had our own little section that we focused on. And the Tree of Souls was my baby. The one thing I really kind of wanted to do. It really is the largest thing I've ever built, and it was a huge challenge in making this look like an organic structure in a tree. I looked at clips from the movies and a lot of online inspiration, looking at what other Lego builders had done to create trees with organic shapes. I actually saw a tree stump that another builder had done using these Technic treads as the bark of the tree in the reddish brown, just as a surface texture for this tree. And it really turned out amazing. And it's been so neat to hear people when they realize what that piece was and be excited about what we did. It was a real challenge because from my original Technic prototyping for the structure of the tree, it appeared like it would be great and strong, but it wasn't until I started building the canopy and adding so much to the top of the tree that I realized that it just wasn't strong enough. I ended up with the trunk breaking on me twice during the build process, where I had a large section of the canopy built, and it just was too much weight for the structure of the trunk. And kind of with it half built and me holding part of the trunk, I'm fishing around finding more pieces to secure it, and had to keep adding to that structure to give it the strength to hold up that complete canopy. And then when it finally, I was able to bring it in and add it to the base module that another team had put together, the overall weight of the tree was too much. Once it was secured to the top layer of the structure, any shift in it, it would just pull and peel the top layer just right off. So I had to completely re-engineer this module so that we have Technic bracing from the base all the way to the top to hold everything together, so that as it moves and it is transported, the shifting doesn't tear it apart. But unfortunately, it is just standard Technic pins and axle connections in a lot of the upper canopy, and the transport down here to the show was very problematic for it. It did not like moving the 350 miles down here. And when we opened its box, here at the show, the entire canopy was on the ground. I mean, it had completely collapsed, and in such a way that I couldn't really restructure it. So I spent most of Thursday, while everyone else was working on putting the main build back together, having to rebuild the entire top of the tree from scratch. So this is tree 2.0, but it worked out great. I mean, Legos, you can always put them back together. So that was my big challenge and the big story of our tree of souls here.
This is fantastic. The tree looks incredible. You also have an amazing number of figures around there. Do you know how many figures are just in this section right here?
No. Actually, one day when I had finished with the tree and done its final install on the base and worked on the root structure, and I had all the landscaping done, that was it for me that night. I came back in the next day, and someone had already hopped in and completely populated the lower scene, and I'm getting a cue that there's over 200 Na'vi just around the base of this tree. This is a scene from the end of the first movie where they're trying to save Grace, move her spirit into her avatar body, and just one of the many scenes that we've incorporated in the build from the first movie and the second movie.
Thank you so much. Fantastic work there. So we'll move on to one of the next builders then. If you want to introduce yourself and then tell us about the section that you had a hand in here.
My name is Sean Deneau. My title on the program was basically a project manager. So there isn't one part of the build that I was in charge of. I was in charge of orchestrating who was working on what and coordinating the entire build being completed. We had problems right from the beginning. We had parts that didn't show up in the same size that we ordered, parts that came in different colors. We tried to get the mural done within the first couple of days of the build, of having the parts having arrived. And when we went to construct the structure that supports the mural, we found out that we had the wrong length of Technic lift arms, and we had to design on the fly. Peter and I did that, and we managed to create a new structure in there to hold the mural up. Beyond that, we just had, there were things and issues that happened throughout the build that were challenging, for sure. But it was great to be able to say, all right, I had people coming to me during the build nights, and they would say, I'm here to help. What can I do? And it's like, well, what's your skill level? And they would tell me what they thought their skill level was, and then I would assign them to a task. Some people I would then have to take off that task and put them to something more basic. Some people said, I can't do anything. We had people who came to us who had never put two bricks together before, and within a week they were designing their own little creations, little mocks to put inside of the main build. And that was kind of a really rewarding thing to watch and see the people grow like that. As far as the things that I had a strong hand in building, I guess the mountain structure that holds up the mountain for the waterfall was one of the things I did a lot of work on. I designed a number of the plants. I designed a number of the small animals. And I designed the overall structure of the build so that we could put it together and break it apart and transport it. The rock wall, I had a strong hand in working on that, but I didn't get as much time to actually put bricks together on this one as I would like. Instead, I was directing other people to do that building and trying to coordinate getting everything done within the 90 days.
Talk a little bit more about the structure of that mountain if you can, because it certainly is something that catches your eye when you first look at the build here, and it's not an easy thing to achieve with Lego when you've got all those elements and you're trying to get that to stand up.
Right. So at a time in the past, a couple years back, I built a Smoky Bear that was nearly 7 feet tall. And I learned doing that how to build an internal framework that would support an outer shell, which is essentially what we did with this. But to add the challenge to that, there is a parts pump inside that has a pool at the bottom. It carries a bunch of round tiles, one by ones, from that pool up to the top and drops them on a conveyor belt that then runs them out and drops them down the waterfall. We not only had to build a structure that would hold the mountain up, but then it would support and hold up all the internal structure and framework from the motors and the belts and everything else that's running in there, and not fall apart with it running for 8 hours at a show.
So is that primarily a Technic type structure, or more like your classic kind of 2x4 type bricks in there? What bricks do you find kind of work best for that type of building?
It's almost entirely a Technic structure on the inside. I don't know how to really explain it, except that you'll have Technic beams that cross beam and go out and tie into the edge, and then there are lift arms that tie those beams together to keep them from spreading up and down. So, for example, we can lift a portion of the build, and it carries that weight all the way down to the bottom. Mm-hmm. And that structure is also throughout the other higher portions of the build. The mountain has approximately 10 gallons of Technic beams in it.
That is fantastic. Well, thank you so much for your efforts on the mountain section as well as just the overall coordination here. Once again, it looks amazing, so I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll move on to our next builder then, if you want to introduce yourself.
Sure. My name is Peter Bumbarger. I am also known online as Professor Spacetime, and I was responsible for photography and video on the model, and also designer of the mural on both sides, and also the signage trailer here in the front.
Cool. We can start with kind of the front section then, since that's where we're standing, if you want to take us through kind of this scene that you created here.
Sure. This is combining both the first and second movies. It may look familiar to an official LEGO set. It was basically 5 of those sets put together and amped up in size. And instead of just having one of the sink beds inside, I have 4 in there. And I want to say that interior is about 75% complete. I really wanted to finish it, but I got to a point where I'm like, no one's going to see this at this point, and I have more important things, or not important, tons of different other things to do to get done by our deadline. So by the end of the first movie, it gets trashed, and it gets revisited in the second movie, and just it's all overgrown with brush and plant life. And most importantly, in front of the trailer, there's a crashed mech suit, which has a Quaritch's skeleton that has decomposed over the past 10 years. And we also see him in his avatar body holding his old skull about to crush it. And I did say this scene had to be edited to fit Lego. I did have a spear inside the skeleton, but I was asked to remove that just to make it nice and friendly.
Man, they always take out the fun stuff.
For the most part, but we still had pretty much a lot of fun.
No, that's fantastic work there, and I just love the whole environment around there as well, like those trees and just that such a complete looking scene there.
Yeah, and I just have to thank our other members who brought in all those other trees because they just completed the scene. I was just glad I was able to do the subject and let people work around it and make it look great.
So in addition to that, you mentioned the large kind of mosaic type build in the back there. So tell us about kind of the design of that, because I'm seeing just like crazy numbers of tiles back there.
So in the front here, we have approximately 81,000 tiles. I've always wanted to make a Lego mosaic, and every time I went to go design one and then I saw it was going to cost like $5,000 to $10,000, I'm like, maybe that's not going to happen. So when this project came along and we decided we want to do a mural, I'm like, this is my chance. So essentially the left half is from the first movie. I took a frame of the floating mountains, and the right half is from the second movie, which is the Cove of the Ancestors. And I merged those two in Photoshop, moved some of the rocks around, and just to blend it a little bit better. And I didn't have the planet in the sky. It was Polyphemus in Avatar. I basically just took Jupiter, since it's a gas giant, put a blue filter over it, positioned it, and then still in Photoshop, I digitized it down to the exact number of tiles. So I had pixels to tile ratio 1:1. And then once taken into BrickLink Studio, I let it do its magic. It still messed it up, so I played with saturation and hue, made it look good, and still wasn't done because BrickLink makes every available Lego color in the mosaic by default. So I had to take out all the old grays and all the old colors, Fabulous and Orange and all that, just so we could actually order these parts from Lego. And then just quickly, we constructed this on a community day where we had children of all ages helping us. And we just thought to be fast, we were just going to use laptop screens and just have each person do a 16 by 16 square. Quickly found out color calibration on the screen wasn't that great since we're using approximately 10 different shades of Lego blue, and people were just putting the wrong tiles everywhere, and it just was a disaster. We got the first 3 rows done, and we just called it quits because we had to pull all the tile up. And luckily, Sean reminded me we could do a part replacement in studio, so I looked for lettered tiles and just replaced it, and then turned it into a paint by number. And then we put all the tiles in lettered bins.
I love that. That is a fantastic idea there. Having flashbacks to the Van Gogh Starry Night set with those like shades of blue in the background. Yeah. I just kind of gave up on that eventually. I was like, no one will notice.
But the best part about that kit, they gave you like a ton of extra 1x4 plates. So if you did mess up, it didn't matter.
It's true, exactly.
So.
So now you mentioned, did you work on the other side as well? We can go and take a look right now if we want, since we're talking about this anyway. As we walk around here, you can talk a little bit more about kind of the internal structure. It looks like some of your fellow builders have helped by taking off some of the sides so we can see inside there.
Yes. So this is what Sean was talking about, where we did not get the correct Technic lift arms when we ordered. So we had to redesign it and just came up with this crisscross pattern to hold everything together.
And so that holds obviously the side we just looked at, and then this side over here now as well. So what was your approach with this side?
I basically grabbed the frame from the trailer, did the same thing, and I wanted to make this logo as big as possible. And I just want to point out on top of the V, there is one bright green pixel. That was a color noise that I missed, and we did not order it from LEGO. But luckily, Jake Sadovich had it in his personal collection, so that is his contribution to the mural, is that green dot. We also digitized our Idaho LUG logo because we wanted everyone to know who made this. And most importantly, we wanted to do movie credits and credit all the builders for all their hard work on this project. And we had custom printed tiles done by Bricks and Minifigs.
Yeah, I love that. It's fantastic. And the way this is set up here at BrickSlopes is that, as you were talking about earlier, you know, people come in and see the Avatar sign side, but then you walk around and you really get to take in the whole build.
Yeah, the best part was just sitting here on the corner or standing here on the corner, seeing kids come in and just be like, oh, wow, that's LEGO. And then they come around the corner like, oh, wow, that's LEGO. And then just seeing the parents do the same thing like, oh, okay. And then, whoa. So
we saw the internal structure a little bit there, but this is still a very tall signage section here. So what has this been like? Kind of how strong is this? Is there any concern that this might flop over during the show at all?
No concern. It's it's pinned to the back of the model, so it's pretty well balanced with the beams taking it back and forth, and this breaks off into 6 sections. So one person can move it by themselves, but we try to have 2 so it doesn't crumble.
Well, fantastic. Thank you so much for taking us through that. We'll walk back over now to our next builder, coming back around to the water side of the build. And if you would like to introduce yourself and then tell us about kind of some of what you worked on.
My name is Emmanuel Mostetti. I am lead designer for Ocean Wild and Fauna. And we started the project before we knew what whales we have in the design. So basically, we got the 3-in-1 shark sets and starting building. After a month of working, we designed around 8 different whales, from the tiniest ones possible to the medium size to the huge one that it's the most common and famous in the movie. Right when we got more information from LEGO and Lightstorm, we realized that we need to put in sharks also. So 2 weeks before, or 2 weeks before we finished, and we had a deadline from LEGO, we had to build 2 new designs of sharks that we added in the project. Besides that, half or probably 6-7 of the bottom flowers from the fauna, it's also part of my designs. And we had to put together some designs and then spread it to the community and help us build 10, 15, 20 of the same ones so we can spread it to the mock.
What are some of your favorite elements in here? Because there's so much happening here and there's so many things you can point out, but what are some of your favorite kind of pieces that were used to create some of those underwater scenes?
From all the 10 or 11 designs that I did, probably the sharks are more elaborate, and it took more time than all the others, but I am very proud of my work. Yeah.
Very impressive, and I love, all of the colors that are represented here as well. So you're able to use some of those somewhat newer LEGO colors that create that really vibrant look under there.
A little bit. So close to the end of the time of the project that we had, Lego sent us the new sets that they were supposed to come out, or they were gonna come out probably a month after we were showing the project. And having those, we were able to match the colors and the designs a little bit, so can look more like the Avatar.
Well, thank you so much for all your work here. Appreciate it. And we'll make our way to the right side of the build now. So we've got another builder who worked on this section. If you want to introduce yourself and then tell us what we have here.
So I'm Laura Altus, and I was pulled out of a 10-year quell of building for this project.
They're like, we've got to get her out of retirement.
Yeah, it was a little bit like that. And then I had to ramp up on all the new pieces. Going from casual build to this speed was a little bit of a challenge. But we did it. And in the shallows here, part of this was the design of the world of Pandora. It goes from daylight to black light almost looking, right, to nighttime where things glow. And so we designed the whole build to do those 3 phases of lighting. So it looks different completely in the day as it does with black light, as it does at night. And so there are glowing elements and black lights that we put up, and the whole world changes. It looks just like the movie. And I was like, we have to have black lights. So everybody ordered the coral pieces for the black light. But as far as this continuing here, the Navi village over here, that was kind of a challenge. We had to design this area before we knew what the movie was or that there was a village. But we had to order parts. Good luck with that, because we're like, well, we don't have the parts we need to build this. We don't have cloth. We don't have the things that we showed in the movie. So I decided to take the, I don't have the official name, forgive me, people, the long, skinny, brown cord, I guess it's called.
Sort of a flex tube type of piece.
Yeah, my brick link is not up to par yet. And I decided to just weave it in like a million different ways. And I don't know how to weave. I like Girl Scouts 3rd grade boondoggle, but that's not something that I do. But I just decided to give it a shot and do some different baskets. And one looked like a fish when I was done, so I was like, that was cool. I didn't start making it look like a fish, but that's what I got. And so, yeah, it was just a really great time, and I'm back. This is my first show since 2010, I think, so I think I'll stick around.
That's amazing. This is great work here. In addition to the weaving sections you were talking about, the trees here are really great as well. So can you talk about kind of how all that was incorporated together?
Yeah, so we had to make trees that grew from the bottom of the ocean up into the sky, and we had to anchor them, the anchoring, that was the hard part, to the bottom without them falling over. So there are Technic connectors 1 through 5. I think we didn't have any 4s, or one of them was missing. That was one we wished we had, but they don't make it in that color. And then we just strung them together and pinned some leaves on. They're not super complex, but they look cool. So anybody out there wanting to copy, go ahead.
That's the key to a good design, though. It doesn't have to be crazy complex.
Not at all. And this is where we got to play with the minifigs, where they weren't just sitting around a tree. So we really wanted to make them come to life. You'll see the one jumping in the air with the chain. That was one thing I brought, was the Lego chain as the water. I love the way it organically flows. It makes it instantly look like water without any work, because it's random when it falls. So we have people swimming and fishing, and there's people camping and just doing all the things you would in the ocean. And that was the most fun, was just we got to play dolls there for a little bit. And what's more fun than just setting up the scene?
Exactly. Excellent work here. Thank you so much for your insight into this section as well. This is definitely one of my favorite parts of the whole layout, so I really appreciate it.
Oh, that's sweet. Thank you.
Now we'll come back over here real quick, because I wanted to ask you about kind of the future of this layout. So obviously it looks incredible here at BrickSlopes, but it'd be super cool for lots more people to see this in person. So can you tell us anything about the future of where this might be, or shows it might be at?
The next place we're taking this to is the Bricks Minifig store here in Utah, in Mill Creek. So it's going to be there for a couple of weeks. Then we're going to be at FanX, a big Comic-Con type show here in Salt Lake City. After that, our schedule's open. So we'll be taking it back to Boise, putting it in storage, doing repair work and tune-ups, and then we'll see what the future holds. But it will be assembled for the next 2 years. Part of our agreement with LEGO and Disney was that this will be available through the end of 25 for future displays at other projects. We're also taking it to MockFest, which is our Idaho LEGO convention. It'll be the 28th and 29th of October, last weekend of October before Halloween. So we have a big LEGO convention there for our Idaho builders, and of course anybody else who wants to come. We definitely would love to see a lot more builders come out from other areas. So it'll be on display there, and after that we'll see. But we hope to tour it around quite a bit more over the next 2 years before its inevitable retirement or restructuring or possibly conversion into another build. But you know, there's more Avatar movies coming out. So if we get contacted that we need to add another 6 feet to this, everybody's got worried looks on their faces. But I'm pretty sure that if that opportunity arises, we would be very excited to add more to this build.
Fantastic, and I love that you have a local show that you can represent it at after all the work that was done there. I think that's really cool as well. So it'd be super cool for people to come out there and see this build in person. We'll make sure to put a link to some more info on the show in the description of the video, so if people want to check that out, they can as well. But thank you so much for all of your work and all of the builders here. Thank you to everyone who helped take us through the build here and for bringing it out to the show. It's just an incredible layout, so thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. We're glad you guys could come out and see it. And one last thing about Easter eggs that are around this build. You might notice here, right up here in the rock work, there is a little tiny state of Idaho hidden in the rock. And around the build, there's quite a few more of those. We really wanted to add in some little references to our build. So there are over 20 other Idahos hidden around the rock work here.
Perfect. So if you do ever see this build in person, everyone can keep an eye out for those. See how many you can spot as well. Thank you once again.